I used to think building the ultimate home office and desk setup is simple. Get a bigger room, buy better gear, add a nicer desk, get some nice lighting around the office, maybe a giant monitor if you really want to disrespect your bank account, and eventually everything should come together. That was my belief, and over the last 6 years, that's exactly what I did. Now, before we dive into this setup, let's go back to the very beginning. This whole thing started in the corner of my bedroom. Just a basic setup and me trying to figure out whether I actually had the courage to post videos on the internet. Speaking of which, right before I posted my first video, I got cold feet and shelved it. Oh, fuck! I lost it. There I was, overthinking everything. Whether I was good enough, whether any of this would go anywhere. I had all of that playing in my mind, and a lot of my early recordings got shelved until I posted my first video. Then I did it again, and somewhere in that process, what started as confusion and fear slowly turned into an obsession with tech, design, productivity, conveyed through stories that were produced in my setups. Now, when I started, the setup only needed to do 3 jobs. Give me somewhere to come up with the ideas, edit the videos once they were short, and consume some content. That was enough until it wasn't, because once I stumbled into the desk setup rabbit hole, it quickly became obvious the little desk in my room wasn't just obvious, it was getting in my way. So, like any sensible person dipped in the desk setup rabbit hole at the time, I upgraded. The first facelift being the classic IKEA lean-mount countertop and Alex drawers. After that, I felt I had a proper station and not just a survival station with a bunch of peripherals. Or so I thought, because not long after, I got that same itch and now I upgraded to an entire bedroom. Little did I know I had opened a Pandora's box. About a year in, the setup rabbit hole introduced me to the black and walnut theme, and I fell in even deeper. Just like that, I gave it another upgrade, then did it again, and after that I was like, no more upgrades until I did it again. That's when I noticed every upgrade had a habit of revealing the next problem, and that's why I kept evolving the space even when I didn't need to. Once that sunk in, I started thinking more about optimization rather than upgrading just for the sake of it, and that's how I landed on my current iteration. For starters, the black and walnut theme is still the foundation, and while it's a spectacle by itself, I also wanted the room to feel warmer, cohesive, and inviting. For that reason, lighting, decor, plants, texture, and all the smaller details started doing a lot more of the heavy lifting. By the way, the orange accents came out of that process as well. It started with one silver lamp that looked completely wrong in the room, but instead of returning it like a normal person would, I spray painted it orange, and that impulsive decision created a ripple effect. Suddenly, there was a thread to pull on, and that's how the mushroom lamp, the typewriter, and the curtains came into the picture. Little details that made the room a bigger spectacle for the senses. When it comes to the desk, this is where the scripts get written, the videos get edited, the products get unboxed, and where I repeatedly tell myself, this is going to be a banger, only for it to crack less than 500 views after 3 weeks. Anyway, low views aside, since the rest of the room is already quite the spectacle, the desk had to do more than just look good, and one of the biggest reasons it now feels so immersive is the monitor. I've been using the Samsung Odyssey G9 OLED G93SC for about 2 years now, and it feels just as good as it did on the first day. The amount of screen space is just insane. Editing on this feels amazing. Multitasking, chef's kiss. Even pretending to be productive while one side of the screen is very obviously not work feels amazing. I recently did a deep dive on the Samsung Odyssey G9 OLED monitor, so if that's something you're interested in, check it out on this link here. Back to this particular one, without a doubt it's one of the centerpieces of the setup, and naturally you'd think that would be the thing everyone focuses on, but somehow the comments keep drifting somewhere else. Sitting in front of that huge display is the accessory that keeps stealing the spotlight. Enter my steampunk keyboard. The walnut stained wood, the bronze accents, the rounded keycaps, the patinaed clock. It looks like something a Bond villain from the 60s would use to reply to emails. That said, it isn't just here to look dramatic. It's genuinely satisfying to type on with its clicky switches, and it gives the desk a level of personality that most clean modern setups just don't have. Now, while it definitely wasn't cheap when I first bought it for $750, it's somehow become an even more ridiculous story over time. Because the last time I checked, it's appreciated in value and it now goes for $3,139.25. So not only did I buy one of the most dramatic keyboards on the internet, apparently I also bought a luxury asset. Oh, and before I forget, I also picked up a steampunk mouse as well. Visually, it absolutely commits to the beat, but the reality is, as much as I enjoy pulling it out every now and then, it's not as ergonomic. And that's exactly why my MX Master mice always make a comeback. At this point, I've had a slightly unhealthy obsession with the MX Master series mice. It started with the MX Master 3, which honestly performs just fine. Matter of fact, for most people, that mouse is more than enough. But clearly, I have a problem because I upgraded to the 3S and now I have the 4. Every single time I try to move away from that shape, those ergonomics, that scroll wheel, that familiar, I know exactly what I'm getting feeling always pulls me back. That said, while the steampunk mouse wins on character, the MX Master keeps winning where it actually matters. Comfort, practicality, and being the mouse I can use for long sessions without my wrist filing a complaint. Paired with a Capio wrist rest, those long editing sessions move faster than Cheeto dust on your fingers over a long weekend in front of a TV. Underneath both of them, the matte setup ties everything together visually while giving the desk a bit more visual structure. That said, my government mousepad has developed some grayish spots that always reappear even after a good wipe. I'll actually give it a wipe, then show you guys what I mean a little later in the video. When it comes to keeping on top of tasks, the classic sticky notes and these task and time cards help me with that. But I'll admit, I do fall behind sometimes. As for lighting on the desk, the Elgato key light, Govee monitor lights, and the BenQ Screen Bar Halo 2 have been clutch. Now, just to be transparent, BenQ sent this out for me to try. That said, this is not one of those drop everything and upgrade situations. If you already have the previous gen Halo, the standard one, or even something like the Xiaomi monitor light, you'll be good. But compared to all the monitor lights I just mentioned, the Halo 2 is brighter, the spread feels more even across the desk, and it does a better job lighting the front edge without creating glare on the screen. Oh, and it's also got a motion sensor, so when you walk back into your setup, it automatically lights up. Another cool upgrade from the previous gen is the rechargeable controller. Again, it's not a night and day difference, but it's the kind of upgrade you notice more the longer you use it. Speaking of upgrading, I haven't found a reason to upgrade my Insta360 Link webcam, which I've had for 3 years now because it just does the job. With the camera and lighting sorted, the real magic of this desk lays in balancing two different systems. On one side, my M1 Mac Mini handles emails, scripts, browsing, and simple day-to-day work still completely fine. But the second I throw a graphic intense timeline at it, it reminds me that it's lived a full life. We're talking choppy playback, effects taking forever to load, and the wheel of death showing up like it's clocking for a shift. Luckily, my PC on the other side handles the heavy lifting, smoother editing, faster exports, less drama in general. But again, running two systems creates its own problems. That's where this next accessory comes in. Enter the Blue Ant sound blade. When you're constantly switching between Mac and Windows, audio becomes more annoying than it has any right to be. Wrong output, reconnecting devices, sound still coming out of the other machine for no reason. Those are some of the problems you can experience. The Blue Ant sound blade smooths out that process.
USB, Bluetooth.
It's a small thing, but those small things make it much easier when editing or consuming content. By the way, here's a sample audio test. When it comes to organization, it doesn't matter how clean your desktop looks if you open a drawer and it looks like the aftermath of a minor electrical accident. For a while, that was basically the situation over here. The old IKEA drawer organizers did the job, but as the gear piled up, they weren't flexible enough for the way I actually used the space. So I swapped them out with the Gridfinity system. If you've never heard of it before, it's a modular organization setup system where you build a base grid and drop different bins into it depending on what you need to store. Instead of opening a drawer and seeing batteries, SSDs, cables, and random dongles all rolling around together, everything gets its own place. The part I really liked was building it around my actual gear instead of forcing my gear into whatever organizer happened to exist. That's where Tooltrace.ai came in. I used it to work out the measurements and plan the bins around the things I actually needed to store. I'm talking sections for SSDs, SD cards, batteries, adapters. Then once I had the dimensions, I printed the pieces using my Bamboo Lab P1S. If I'm being honest, that printer has ended up being one of the most practical additions to my home office. Custom drawer bins, cable clips, holders for oddly specific accessories, it's helped me solve a lot of problems around the home office. Now, the more gear you collect, the more dangerous it becomes to rely on your desk to do all the storage. Cameras, lenses, microphones, batteries, cables, keyboards, random accessories you swear you'll use more often, it all adds up very quickly. So storage became a top priority really fast. The Fiabo units carry a mix of practical gear and display pieces. The cabinets hide the uglier and bulky stuff. As for the shelves, some are there for decor, some are there for gear, and some are basically temporary holding zones for products waiting to be filmed. The pegboards also came in clutch. I've got my vintage handhelds, cameras, keyboards, keyboard switches, pencils, you name it. All of them taken care of in the pegboards. The goal wasn't just to have a place to dump things, it was to make the room feel lighter without stripping away its personality. Speaking of which, without the plants and decor, this would just be a very expensive tech cave. And that's why I have the slat panels for texture, the curtains for a pop of color, the lamps for warmth, and the plants make the whole space feel alive. My rubber plant has basically become the office mascot, and then there are the peace lilies, the devil's ivies, the calathea which has seen better days, and a few fake IKEA plants mixed in because sometimes I like the idea of being a plant person more than the actual responsibility. That said, those are the things that make the setup feel personal rather than just copied and pasted from the internet. Just like my replica IMS chair. Design-wise, it breaks up all the straight lines in the room. The desk, the shelving, the cabinets, a lot of rectangular shapes. Then throw the IMS chair to the mix and now you get softer curves, some texture. All of that makes the space feel more balanced whilst rubber stamping that mid-century style that I've always loved. Functionally, it's become one of those pieces I use more than I expected. It's where I sit back and read, listen to records, think through ideas, or just step away from the desk without fully leaving the room. If you'd ask me, not every part of the office needs to scream productivity. When it comes to lighting, I touched on it a little earlier in passing, and if you'd ask me, it's one of those things people notice straight away. No matter how expensive the desk is or how good the monitor looks, bad lighting will flatten the whole space. That's why everything in here comes from task, ambient, and accent lighting instead of relying on light from the ceiling. See how horrible that looks? The ambient lights make the room feel cozy, the task lights perform a specific function depending on the task, and accent lighting adds depth. That combination is what makes the office feel good to be in and not just good to look at. That's why this version feels different. Not because it has the most stuff, not because it costs the most, not because it's the biggest, but because for the first time, everything feels like it's moving in the same direction. By far, this is the best version, but it's been quite the journey. From a tiny desk in the corner of a bedroom to a full home office and desk setup, this has been 6 years of building, rebuilding, fixing problems, creating new ones, and slowly figuring out what I actually needed from the space. Oh, and before I get crucified in the comments for not showing the GrowMed mousepad, you can see you still have those gray markings even after giving it a good wipe. I guess it's just wear and tear, but I would have loved it to sort of maintain that level of consistency around there. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part of the setup is, and as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and click the notification bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. After that, you'd love the step-by-step build over here. Until then, people of the internet, I'm signing out. See you over here.